G'day guys, Ian here again. Just showing you these are the 280 amp hour single cell, and in a series of four series connection, which is a 4S 1P, just a single battery times 4. It is a 12 volt battery. So that's the King battery box that we're doing. And what I've done is I've used 35 squared cable, quite heavy duty in fact, because I'm going to be running this off a 2.5 kilowatt 2500 watt inverter. So from 12 volt up to 240 at 2500 watts. So that's quite demanding. And if you're not using such a high powered inverter on your load side, you can go thinner for your output cable. So that's up to you. So as you can see, that's the positive coming down here. These are the bus bars. Now these are copper bus bars. They look shiny and silver. That's because they've been nickel plated to completely not have any copper exposed, because copper will oxidize. So these are all protected with a layer of nickel, anodized or electroplated, however you want to call it. So it goes from here, goes up from here, comes from here, and that's your negative. That's your positive. Positive directly goes to the load, which is going to be over here. This is the King's box. Let's have a look at this. Daisy. So that's the positive side, that's the negative side on this side. So the positive goes directly to the positive, and then the negative, as you can see, it actually goes down onto the BMS. On one side of the BMS, which is the negative from the battery, and on the other side of the BMS, it's the output of the negative. So we can say that it is a negative fused battery, because the fuse, or the electronic fuse, is the BMS, so to say. And this little thing here is something that we've made available just in recent days or weeks. It is a balance board. What it is it's the size of, let's pull it out. It's half the size of a BMS, all right? And its job is to equalize the batteries. So whenever you get to about 95% charge or so, over 90 plus, then the equalizing board will activate, and it will balance all your voltages of the individual. So the battery balance boards, these are dedicated battery balance boards. They come in a 4S 12 volt system like this is, and they also come in an 8S, which is a 24 volt system. And to get it to a 48, then you install two of the 24 volts, which is two of the 8S, which will give you. So a lot of people might say that, is there a built-in equalization on the BMS? Our BMS comes with them, yes, but they are absolutely close to useless when we're talking about capacity over even 50 amps or 100 amps and above. So this is 280 amps. So the BMS board, which is only which is this big, to give an example, this is a 8S, but 24 volt, but the 12 volt is the same size. So given that that's that big, and the dedicated balancing board is more than half the size of it. So that's where a dedicated balance board would do a much better job, and it's dedicated to balance your batteries on the top end. And of course the board has heat sinks like that, and they'll get nice and toasty, not burning hot, but it does get fairly warm, so that's fine, because it is using resistors, large resistors, versus built-in resistors on the board, which are tiny in there. They can't do much as far as big capacity. So having said that, so this is the battery, positive directly to your load and your charging, or the connecting bus bars, and then your negative of the battery goes via one side of the BMS board, and it comes out on the other side. So basically it goes into the input of the BMS board, comes out from the output, and the output in this case is this cable here that goes to your load as well. And then the balancing board is there. So all the one thing I've done is I've used little nickel strips and placed them underneath the terminals and the bolts, so that you can actually easily put solder and solder on your balancing leads. And there's two per tab. Why? With one for the BMS and one for the balancing board, so that the balancing board and the BMS always knows exactly what these four, or all the cells in your battery bank, is doing all the time. So as you can see right there we go, same as that. And yeah, because if you try to solder onto nickel, even though nickel would adhere, solder would adhere very easily, but the problem is it's going to be very hard to get this to heat up, because it's all going to be sucked into the battery once you make the connection. Whereas with the nickel tab, as long as you touch the soldering iron onto it, put a bit of solder, and boom, it just melts in and sticks within 1 second. So that's what we do, and that's the internal of the King's battery box project that we're doing. So I'm going to put the lid on and I'll show you how it looks like. Because underneath it, let's have a look at this. Underneath it, there is, let's see what they have here. You've got the positive, and then you've got the negative. And yeah, so at the front, you've got the terminals, etc. And on the back, you've got your USB and your cigarette port. So let's see how we go. Rightio, this is all done. I wired it up, so these terminals are always connected to the battery, and these Andersons are always connected. So the only thing I've done rewired the back is with this, even if this is off, the voltmeter will still work. So we're sitting at 14.1, and as you can see from behind here, this is the upside down. That's the USB. If I turn it on from the front, there we go. That's on. That's off. And that is by doing this. So if you have your USB connected continuously to your battery, it will eventually, very slowly of course, drain, because there's a light that's using battery. So with this, you can have your USB and your cigarette port working, and then turn it off like so, and this will only get turned on when you press it. Here is the finished box, sitting at 14 volts. Negative terminal, positive terminal, Anderson plugs, negative positive, Anderson plug, negative positive. So these two are connected all the time to the battery terminal, and the at the back of it, that's the breaker, and at the back of it we've got what do we have here? We have cigarette lighter, cigarette port, sorry, and we have USB charger. And if we turn this on, like so, the light turns on, you can start charging. Turn it off, she's off. And of course the straps that holds the lid in place. You do not lift it by the lid. There's a handles underneath on the bottom case, and that's what you be carrying. So, all good.